Just a minute or two, and then once that's done, we'll go back into the regular township committee meeting, which I assume you guys will get.
Good, yes.
So you know what's going on.
We thought we were at the wrong place at the wrong time. We just cleared it up. Thank you.
All right, let's get started. Kate?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, published in the Asbury Park Press on January 5th, 2019, revised by email on October 4th, October 18th, and November 9th, 2019.
Thanks, Kate. Give a roll call, please.
Mayor Coles?
Here.
Let the record reflect that Deputy Mayor Miller, is here. Is here. Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Here.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Let the record reflect that sitting between Ray Coles and Mike DeLeo.
Committeeman Delia?
Here. Excellent. Everybody please rise for a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Health from July 18th?
So made.
By Mike, second by Menashe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. At this point, I'll open the meeting to the public for comments on the Board of Health. If anybody has anything related to the Board of Health they'd like to address, please come to the microphone. State your name and address for the record. Keep your comments to 4 minutes or less, please.
Shlomo McCline, 189 Shadow Drive. I see every few months you have a Board of Health meeting. Nothing discussed over there. You just go into the meeting and you just adjourn the meeting, and there's nothing discussed. And it looks like this is, I don't know who created this Board of Health meeting, or it's a thing that was created for the townships that they have to do, and they don't do anything, or it could be it's just a thing that every other township takes advantage of the Board of Health to service the community, and Lakewood doesn't utilize it for whatever reason. You just still have to keep these meetings going because by law you're required to do them, but you don't discuss anything, you don't do anything. This is not, I'm just telling a perception of a member of the public that might look at it, because every time you go into these meetings, you just don't discuss anything, you just go out of the meetings. So that's how it looks like a member of the public, that you're like forced to have this meeting, but you don't do anything with the fact that there's a Board of Health in Lakewood, and to use it for some, whatever Board of Health is supposed to do. I'll let you comment on that.
The majority of the actions that are required of the Board of Health handled by the county. The township has a Board of Health, as does every other municipality, if I'm not mistaken. And if something were to be brought to our attention, whether it be a rabies outbreak or something like that, we would be able to take action and refer it over to the county Board of Health. But very rarely are there any actions we have to take as the county board, as the township Board of Health.
Thank you.
Anybody else have to hear about the Board of Health? Seeing nobody, will close the public comments.
No. Okay.
This is for the Board of Health, not the regular township committee meeting.
Oh, okay, that's kind of how I combine it together then, because am I allowed to talk twice for the Board of Health? Okay. Hi, my name is Susan. I live in Toms River.
Susan, you need your full name and address for the record, please?
Oh, yes, Susan Carney, 1311 Arthur Street in Toms River, yes. This is in regards to Caparos, the animal sacrifices that happens in Lakewood, which I've known about for about 6 years and have been, going to and addressing, what's happening to these animals. And we have a lot of pictures and dates about, improper disposal of, chicken carcasses, and we wanted to know, the rules and regulations of that. Different locations on Fish Street and different things like that, and bingo wholesalers. I don't know if you guys know where that is. That's on Route 70. This has to do with, the animal sacrifices during Yom Kippur, in Lakewood. So, and it's all about the animals. We're animal activists. So some people, some just are pissed off about it, So we just wanted to know why the health department hasn't stepped in. They were actually called out to a certain residence that was doing the comparos, and nothing was addressed about it. So we just wanted to know, why that wasn't addressed. And we have plenty of pictures, and also behind Bingo Wholesalers also too. So,
Well,
yeah.
when the town, there's two different bodies that are being addressed with this. When the township is made aware of something like that,
Yeah.
our inspection department checks to see whether or not it is an allowed use in that area.
Right.
If it is not, they send a notice of violation with the order to cease and desist.
Okay.
All right, by law, we have to give them, I believe it's 5 days. So at the end of those 5 days, if we go out and it's still going on, we issue a summons. But in most cases, it's not. When the Board of Health is called, that's the Ocean County Board of Health.
Right.
Who has jurisdiction over that. So I
Okay.
couldn't answer you why they did or did not respond, or who did not call.
Right,
That's
okay.
something they discuss with us.
Okay, so Lakewood Board of Health has nothing to do with Ocean County. Okay. So what would they address in Lakewood then, the Board of Health of Lakewood?
Any number of things, public safety, public health, they regulate public swimming pools, things like that.
Well, this would have to do with public health, would it not, if it happens in Lakewood, so.
Right, and they
Yeah.
would, you have to ask them when they received the complaint and how they responded to it. I do know
Okay.
that they came to town a couple of times. They
Yes.
did not report to us and fill us in on what the disposition of that situation was.
But by rights or by law, shouldn't they have reported that to you, or they don't?
No.
Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting. Okay, all right. All right, thanks, Lisa. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have a few follow-up questions. Thank you.
I just need your name and address for the record.
Yes,
please.
my name is Lisa Tarzia, Tarzia. I'm a resident of Ocean County at 826 Spar Drive in Forked River, zip code 08731. I understand that religious and slave rituals are covered by the U.S. and New Jersey constitutions. Don't have a problem with that outside of possible Title IV violations, which aren't under your purview. But as far as establishments in business establishments, I understand that the Board of Health, so you're saying Ocean County would handle the establishment, the business, Bingo Wholesale. Our specific concerns are that carcass parts are being left scattered about the dumpsters and garbage disposal units. And sawdust is just being tossed around instead of the area being sanitized possibly, or those carcass parts being disposed of properly to be carted away. So we were just concerned that that's a health code violation possibly, but you're saying then that Ocean County would cover that, and that's not under your purview. Okay.
What I will say is that I'll ask our inspections department to speak to the folks at Bingo and make sure that their disposal procedures are in place. So if they do decide to host this again next year, that issues like that don't occur.
Okay. The other issue is, from what I understand in speaking to the sanitation department, animal carcasses, whether they be a deceased pet or a slaughter, from a slaughter ritual, in other words, cannot be disposed of in a residential garbage can and picked up by a municipal carting company. However, carcasses from slaughterhouses can be disposed of in private dumpsters and carted by a private company. That's something that's a little bit of a gray area. We just want to make sure that everything's being disposed of properly and in a sanitized way. So I don't know what your purview is with that when it comes to municipal carting. Is this just a sanitation issue that has to be taken up with the sanitation department? Because they weren't really sure, and they referred me to animal control. So for that question, so they didn't seem to have an answer.
That's actually the first time I've ever been asked that question about the disposal. So I'll have to check with our public works to see if they were aware of any situations like that. And again, to let the people who may be responsible know what the proper disposal techniques are.
Yeah, that's
Of course,
it.
like Bingo would have their own private carting.
That's how I understand
Very
it.
similar, I imagine, to butcher shops and fish shops and stuff like that, where you have a lot of animal waste being disposed of. So don't know off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I've asked our township manager to
Mhm.
look into it, to talk to the public works director, see how things have been handled there, and again, check with our inspections department about any of the commercial establishments that have been doing this as well.
And the other issue is that it's been documented, some of the chickens, their carotid arteries have not been completely severed, and they're being disposed of in trash bags and receptacles while they're still alive, and I don't know how, sanitary that would be, but, that was an issue as well.
Again, this is the first time being told about these particular things.
Yeah.
So we have to look into it.
Okay, so
It doesn't happen yet.
what do you suggest then, that we follow up at another meeting and speak to you, or follow?
You can reach out to the township clerk's office during the week. That's back at the end of our public works director is on vacation until next week, so give us a week after that. And we'll put together what our procedures are for stuff like that.
Okay.
And we'll see that they get implemented properly. And as far as the public, the private businesses, we'll just have to make sure that they're aware. I'll ask Ocean County, I guess, to make sure they have somebody go into each of those establishments and make sure they understand what the proper disposal techniques are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, this is the Board of Health meeting, not the regular meeting.
Oh, okay.
You're still welcome to speak if you have something.
No, no, no.
All right, see you. I have no plan. No prize.
Board of Health,
Name and address, please, sir.
I'm sorry, William Slate. I live on North Road, 50 North Road, Lakewood. I'm a former police officer. I'm a former state officer of the state PCA. My concern right now is not healthy, but you're saying it's Ocean County, and I'm just not a healthy guy, I don't care. What I care about is the cruelty. And I'm not talking about the killing. All right, I understand chickens die. You eat them. They gotta die first. I understand that. They kill them and toss them away. That's another issue. But it's the way they're kept while they're still alive. I've witnessed this now for 2 years. I've studied this. I've followed cars around as they're dropping dead chickens here at this place and that place and spread it out. According to the USDA, the chickens, by the point of when they take off, taking chickens, born in the departure, the point of arrival, depending on how far it is, they have to be watered within 12 and 18 hours. The way things run, as you see down here between 9 and 10, they have so many. Their operation just does not cover it. They will not do it. They cannot do it. I've been there. I've stayed there at nights. Watched the chickens come in 9 o'clock at night. Watched them not be moved until mid-afternoon. This last one, the chickens was 92 degrees out. It was still noon, and they didn't start moving into the tents until then. There's Title IV laws. There's USDA regulations. Nobody now, since Christie has gotten rid of the law enforcement, the SPCA, every town is supposed to designate an officer for cruelty. Not watering and not feeding and keeping in the hot sun like this is cruelty. That's what I'm interested in. Not the dead ones, not the live ones, not with the blood running in the street. They're dead, and I don't care. There's no cruelty involved in death. But there is cruelty while you're still alive. Now, I want to know, is Lakewood Police Department willing to press charges? If I smile, will they take the charges of cruelty against Yeshiva 910, the place on Fifth Avenue? Will they do it, or will they not do it?
I'm going to defer to my attorney to answer that question.
It's not up to the police department, Mayor, it's up to the municipal clerk, the municipal court administrator as to whether or not they'll accept the complaint. I obviously can't answer that. It's a fact-sensitive issue. If the gentleman wants to bring the complaint, kind of late, but.
The police have to take it if I'm willing to sign it.
Say again?
The police have to take a complaint if I'm willing to sign it. I was a police officer, I know that.
The municipal court administrator takes the complaints, not the police.
So I will go to the police officer, say I want to complain, make a complaint?
You could do that, but ultimately, the court doesn't want us to issue the complaint or not the police department. Yeah. I've been doing this 47 years, it's always been the same way since I've been doing it. Yeah, former prosecutor too, so.
in court.
No,
But the police
the
officer.
clerk will say whether or not it's probable cause to issue the complaint. That's our duty, not the municipal clerk, the municipal court administrator. So take your complaint to the first floor and see what they, I can't predict what they're gonna do.
All right.
But that's where you would go.
Okay.
If they send you to the police, you know, then go to the police.
All right.
But it's a civilian complaint, and the clerk is supposed to make a determination of probable cause.
All right. See you next year, guys.
And good luck with it.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do I speak now or at the next meeting?
If you have something about the Board of Health, you can speak now. If you have something about the township, you can speak during the public portion of the township, which should be hopefully about 5 to 10 minutes.
I'll do that because it has nothing to do with health, but I can say.
I just had one more question, which I forgot.
Did you already come to the mic?
Yeah, I did.
All right, you have to wait till the public portion of the next meeting
Okay,
starts.
it's a health issue, but
But you can speak about anything in the public portion.
Okay.
You don't have to have anything to say. All right, so seeing nobody else, we'll close the public comments for the Board of Health meeting. There is no consent agenda. Do we have any correspondence?
No.
Any comments from committee members? Seeing none, motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, so we're going to adjourn the Board of Health meeting. We will go into the Township Committee meeting. Dave, you want to-
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, and published in the Asbury Park Press on January 5th, revised by email on October 4th, October 18th, and November 9th, 2019.
Thanks. You have a roll call, please?
Mayor Coles?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Miller?
Here.
Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Here.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Here.
Committeeman Delia?
Here. Ask everybody again to rise for a salute to the flag of the United States and prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Disobey my own rules, I apologize.
Heavenly Father, we pause to give our thanks for thy many blessings. We ask that thy blessings upon the Township Committee and all those in authority so that they may serve the people. All this we ask in thy name. Amen.
So a motion to approve the regular minutes of October 3rd, 2019?
So made.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for the October 3rd regular township. July 18th Board of Health meeting.
So made.
Second.
We did them already there.
Yeah, we did them at the-
They're just on the top part of our agenda for.
Okay. All right, Scott, the 2019 best practices inventory? It's on the agenda?
Correct, yes. It's been submitted.
Okay. All right, we have the ordinances for discussion. So at this point, I'm going to open the meeting to the public. Anybody who'd like to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to 4 minutes, please.
Shloy McLean, 189 Chateau Drive. First, I'd like to address an issue that is right across the street of my home. It's Evergreen Plaza. Just finished a new shopping center, no sidewalks. They must probably got this waiver way back in 2016. The property is owned by Sol Mizrahi, and it's going to be managed by Committeeman May Lichtenstein. Now, I do know as May Lichtenstein is a great individual. When somebody reaches out, I don't reach out to him direct, but when somebody calls me, I tell him to reach out to him. He calls back, he helps people. I know he was in the past an advocate for sidewalks, but for some reason this development is not putting in sidewalks. And it's in the highest density in Lakewood where they approved this high density, and no sidewalks is not acceptable. The perception of the public is that the reason why the developer got this waiver was because Mr. Lichtenstein is going to manage the property. I would suggest for Mr. Lichtenstein to refuse to manage this property that doesn't have sidewalks. Because a property that doesn't have sidewalks, somebody will get injured over there, or somebody might get killed. And then we'll see as Mr. Lichtenstein coming to the scene and being the big advocate and speaking for the public. I think is, in his position, he shouldn't be managing a property that doesn't have sidewalks. And he should refuse to accept that management if he's serious about the sidewalks issue. The second thing that I want to mention is, again, this is things that is out there in the public, is the residents of Menashe Miller. You know, everybody in town seems to know that it's owned by Menashe Miller and it's his. Now, I have sources telling me that it's also his. But the fact is, if he would have been a private individual and he wants to put his property that he lives in somebody else's name, good for him. Everybody is entitled to do whatever they want. But when you're in public office and you spend millions of dollars, you're in charge of millions of dollars in public funds, especially as I was by that meeting that they spoke about government bids and everything, it seemed like he knew more how to do the bids than your purchasing agent. That's how it came across. I'm not saying that's how it is, but that's how it looked. So I think or you put these type of accusations to rest and clarify what's going on, and again, if you're renting something for $2,000 and change I mentioned, it also doesn't look good. You know, you are in public office, you should have dealt with this thing. I don't have a problem that you don't have the house on your name or you're renting it for cheap, but when you're in public office, and I'm giving you the opportunity over here to clarify it. You want to plead the fifth and not say anything, it's your choice. But I think I'm giving you the opportunity to clarify to the public that you're straight and you're open and you're not hiding anything and especially is when you're dealing with public funds, the public is requesting that, and that is the law, that any public official has to clarify his assets. There's a reason for that. And there's a statement that you put into the state that every public official declares what he owns. And the reason for that is because the public wants to trust the public officials for doing their stuff the way they're supposed to do. Thank you very much. I would request answer on both questions.
Well, as you know, this township committee, in the 3 years that I've been mayor, has made it very clear about sidewalks and how important they are. If indeed it's true that the waiver was given in 2016, I can't talk to that right now. I do know that Mayor Lichtenstein is probably the biggest advocate for safety and sidewalks in this town. And it's not something that we would go to the planning board and say do or don't do. That's a decision that they make, and we've made clear over the past 3 years just how important sidewalks are to us and how there should be very few, if any, waivers given. All right? And Menashe sitting next to me, I've known him for almost 20 years now. You know, people keep coming up with these wild accusations, but all I can tell you is that the man sitting next to me is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force. And he's gone through more background checks than anybody that I know. And I put my faith in the United States Air Force to uncover anything except for unnamed sources who may or may not suggest that there's an improper relationship. Both of these people, who I know very well and consider friends, do nothing but whatever they can to make sure that the people in this township are safe, have a good place to live, and a vibrant future in front of them. So if you have specifics, please. But please stop with the accusations and the anonymous sources. It's not fair to anybody, including yourself. Thank you.
Good evening. Moshe Zainis, Z-I-N-E-S, 112 Elmhurst Boulevard, Lakewood, New Jersey, 08701. I came because a couple of crossing guards asked me to get a word out on two very important topics, and I figured this is a good way to do that. One is, as you know, we're out there in the morning, 7:10 in the morning. So we're just getting out of bed, and as are many people who are driving, they're driving for the first time. I personally saw in the last 3 weeks several near car crashes, and I heard from the other crossing guards the same thing. The reason being is that people are not properly defrosting or defogging, depending on the type of car you have, their windshields. Basically, as overnight, there's a thin sheet of ice that comes during the winter. It causes frost over the entire windshield, and it reduces the visibility of the road in front of you. When people are driving out, they're seeing only a small part out of their windshield. I'm seeing near car crashes because people are swerving in traffic. They can't see out their full windshield. When we have stopped some of these drivers and told them that their defroster is not on, they say the what? The button, this, that. People on my block where I live have asked me also about this. They say they're about to leave their house and the car is all frosty. They don't know why. So I've been helping them out, showing them the buttons. It's a different button to do the heat and the defroster. It works a different way actually. It's a different type of heat for the front, and it's also electricity for the back. It works a different way. And one more thing about it is that there's a button next to the defroster. You have an option to circulate or not circulate the air. So if you're usually when you press the defroster button, the correct circulation button comes on, but if it doesn't come on, you have to make sure you're not circulating the air, otherwise it's not going out of the car, it's staying in the car. That's one thing. The other very important thing is about bikes. I always say I'm allowed to talk about bikes because I ride one myself. We ride one. If you're riding your bike, hopefully it's with a helmet up. You have to ride on the right side of traffic. Seeing kids, teenagers, unfortunately even adults, even this afternoon, like 2 minutes after you drove by, an adult is weaving in between all those cars on Lexington. That's ridiculous. It's just nuts. But we're having this now. What's happening is that when someone rides a bike on the wrong side of the road, so let's say traffic is going this way, he's going this way, basically this guy comes in, wants to make a right turn. He's only checking traffic from his left. You only check from your back, you don't check from your right. He's going to the right. We have a biker going the wrong way. Like I said, I've seen some very near crashes. Actually, while I was driving a few weeks ago, I saw a high school boy fall off his bike, like 2 cars right in front of me. There was no scoop, there were no pictures taken, but I saw it. So, I don't know, for people watching this, if they're riding, if they have their sons riding, if they're riding, I don't know, mopeds, e-bikes, this bikes, that bikes, they're allowed to do it all, but it has to be on the right side of the road, and they have to have a helmet and the reflector also. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening once again. My name is Lisa Tarzia, Tarzia, residing at 826 Spar Drive in Fort Good River, 08731. Very quickly, I forgot one question. After the Kaparis rituals, it's come to my attention that some participants participating in the rituals, obviously, they've been carting away, not all, they've been carting away bags filled with chicken carcasses in rented U-Hauls. So I don't know what the New Jersey regs are for carting of solid waste materials to landfills. I don't know if they're being brought to landfills or possibly a containment facility, a business that's participating in private removal. My concern is I'm interested mostly in whether or not the U-Hauls that are being, whether they're being sanitized properly after that usage before they're being returned to the rental agents. Because anyone who follows through in a rental after that, obviously not aware that carcasses have been hauled in there, you know, if that's under, if that's a health code violation as well. So that was the only point that I wanted to bring up. But you're saying that would be covered by the Ocean County Board of Health?
The actual ritual and whatnot is, again, I don't know if the rental truck would be covered by DOT. It's something that we'll have to do some research on. Honestly, again, it's the first time the question's been answered. My rent trucks will work a lot, and we clean them out when we're done.
Yeah.
But we move medical equipment, not anything else. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the agency does. I walk the trucks with the rail agency when I come back, bring them into it so they can see that everything is right. I assume that's a standard that they do with every customer, and that if there was any staining or especially blood or smell, that would trigger them, that something needed to be done.
Yeah, because I would think just rinsing it out with water, I mean, I've rented U-Hauls, I've moved 12 times in my life. Rinsing it out with water would not be sufficient to sanitize any blood or, parts. It seems that some participants are not being very careful with
Well, we're assuming,
part.
we don't know, they may be very well taken care of.
Yeah,
properly.
well, in that case with the rentals, I don't know, but, that's another concern, so, thank you.
Thanks.
I get flustered very quickly, so if you don't mind, I'll read my speech, okay? Okay, thank you. My name is Sylvia Hottentoe. I live at 1503 Berkowitz Avenue. It is a house with a sign reading, "One of Lakewood's dirty secrets, animal cruelty." This display will remain visible for the world to see what has become of Lakewood. Registered letters have been sent to the Pope in Italy, Senator Cory Booker, rabbi in Brooklyn. To the main rabbi in Israel, I wrote, "I never did understand why so many hate their Orthodox people. I do now. What I do not understand is you have the ability to change this, but you are not. Why?" So my question to you is the same. Why? Where is your sense of humanity? I observed a young boy at about 9 years old reading the signs posted on our fence, then turning towards me with a sadistic smirk on his face and saying, "Kaporos is my most desirable holiday. I am so looking forward to it." Is this what you want for the next generation to be? Unfeeling, cruel? Images such as these horrific animal abuses of screaming chickens held by their wings, swung about their head as many as 14 times. I did witness this because I did count. Then slaughtered with blood flowing everywhere, remain seared in one's memory. I am Latvian. When I was about 7 years old, I observed a pig being slaughtered on the sidewalk in Germany. I am now 79, and that image has never left me. Compassion is the most desirable trait in a human being. One is not born with it. It must be taught and nourished. The Orthodox people have invaded this town, pushed their traditions upon us, disrupted our quality of life. We have nothing against their religion. It is the use of live birds instead of money we object to. So please, do something to stop this carnage of animal holocaust taking place here in Lakewood. You are not here for decorative purposes only. And then, we have been fighting this now for 4 years, going on 5. I have a printout, if I may give it to you, about what happens to these poor chickens. There should not be any live animals. There should not be. There should be just money. And then also my speech from 2014, something to ponder about before you go to bed. If I may give it to you. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start with ladies first, okay? Come on. Whoops, I'm so sorry.
I'll get it.
Knows who you are.
I'll get it.
As long as you know it yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It has many wisdoms in there, so it's not something to annoy you. Okay? Thank you.
about that either. Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else like to be heard today?
Thank you. One, two.
Hi, my name is John Bell. I'm 69 Whitaker Drive in Toms River, New Jersey. And my talk is going to be relatively short. And that's basically about the Copperos tradition. And although many faiths have ways of forgiving their sins, as a matter of fact, I'm Christian, and we have confession followed by communion, without anything dying or suffering or being killed. So all I'm asking for the Jewish community, the Orthodox community, to show compassion, and because they're supposed to be one of the most compassionate faiths, and all they have to do is embrace compassion and eliminate suffering and death and their transfer of their sins. We understand that there's a growing number of rabbis who have replaced the sacrifice of chickens with coins. In fact, Israel's Ministry of Agriculture released an animated public service announcement encouraging Copperos practitioners to use coins instead of live animals. And we ask to reach into your compassion and discontinue this horrid practice. And there is no reason for any living innocent beings to have to die for anyone's sins of their own. And that's it.
Do you want to speak? Come on down.
I wasn't sure. My turn.
Well, Mrs. Deline, really, so.
I'm not a very good public speaker, so.
Take your time, relax. Just your name and address, please.
Betty Valentin, 305 Ocean Avenue in Lakewood. And I'm coming here, trying to let you know my plight in 3.5 years. Next door to me, there was an approval made to have a synagogue built right next door to me on my left-hand side. And it was approved 3.5 years ago, and I was promised that I was going to have the utmost privacy and an 8-foot fence, bushes, and shaded windows, so I would have the kind of privacy that I asked for. And for 3.5 years, there has been a trailer sitting there. They've been using it as a synagogue, which is, I understand that it's okay to do for 2 years because I looked up the regulations. So I kept contacting Fran in the coding department, and she told me, because I was staying in the trailer so close to my house, I mean, really, really close. And she said, well, let me look into it, and found out that the trailer's in the wrong spot. It's already been, the sewer's already been put in, the electric's been put in, everything's been put in. So they said, we're going to leave it there. So they told me I'm going to have to wait 2 years when the regulations, when they have to build the actual synagogue, because that's the time they can use a temporary trailer. And just a couple of months ago, I'd say about 4 months ago, I started calling again. And they told me, well, they don't have a CO yet. They've been using it for 3 years. And I'm saying, what do you mean they don't have a CO yet? And they said, well, they haven't, got the CO, they haven't got the okay. And I said, well, they've been using it. And basically they said, well, we'll send somebody out there. So they sent somebody out there, they put the ticket on the door. And then a week later, they got a temporary CO. So I said, well, the synagogue's going to go up now? And they said, no, now they could start the 2-year regulation thing, where they have 2 years to save up and build this synagogue. And I did have a problem with it, I'm not going to lie, I did have a problem with it. Because I felt like I was being discriminated against, only because when I called the police said, well, you have to work something out with her. We don't mind you being here. This is the law. This is the law of Lakewood that I'm trusting in to represent me as a taxpayer, 27 years here in Lakewood. And I not only found that out, but I went and got the records of everything that happened on that property. I value life. I really do. For me, my 5 grandchildren, and my husband. I found out. Not only did they knock down the house that was there originally and put a trailer, but they did it without a permit. They had the electric company disconnect, the gas company disconnect, the cables and the whatever they had to disconnect. But they also had to have an inspection done. They found asbestos in the property. They knocked down that property without a permit. I value life. I value my township. Did anybody notify me? And then to find out there was a $2,000 fine and a $500 fine every week after that. 3 months later, they settled for $500. They told me my life, my grandchildren's life, and my husband's life was worth $500. I would really like somebody to investigate this.
If you don't mind, leave your contact information with the clerk. And I'm not sure who will contact you, I need to look into it a little bit, but I promise you somebody will be in touch with you and see what's going on and see what we can get you a little bit of peace of mind.
Thank you.
Well, do you remember the address of that?
The trailer's on 309 Ocean Avenue.
Yes. You check with Fran, my engineer, look into exactly what the situation is out there. Yes. We're going to plan your approvals, if they were promised to leave for the fence, and we usually get that. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, it's me, Susan, Tom's River, 1311 Arthur Street. I'm going to be quick. Carney, Kearney, the town, but with an A. I'm going to be fast. I had this whole thing I was going to read, but my question would be for the Helio officer, PJ Carney, who's clearly not here, and the animal control officer, Michael. On October 1st, again referring to the trailer of chickens that were there for the Caparos. They were called out, and why they did not under Title IV, as you know, the anti-cruelty laws, under Title IV, they should have addressed, dying birds that were there in the trailer. I have pictures too. I don't know if you want to see the pictures. The dead chickens that were lying around, and also the birds that were being picked up by their wings to be swung over. You can't pick up a bird up by their wings. That's cruel and that hurts them. These birds are only 6 weeks old. These are baby birds. They were crammed into these tiny little crates, like 10 to a crate. I don't know if they were being watered. We didn't see anybody watering them that day, because that is a law too. They have to be watered and fed. But I didn't get there till later, but there are a lot of people that witnessed all this. So I want to know why they didn't address under Title IV the anti-cruelty laws, these birds that were stuck, outside the crate, that were dead and dying. I have all pictures of that. So what would be my next step? They were there that day, and they did not address any of it. We pleaded for them. There was a chicken that was in respiratory distress. He couldn't even breathe, or she, I wasn't sure if it was he or she. They wouldn't even go up to the truck to look. So, that's really serious that they did not address it that day.
I'll ask the township manager to speak to the chief and see what
Okay, and then will they call me, or should I just follow up with a phone call?
If you want to leave your name and number with the clerk.
Okay, sure.
I'll also give you a call and have to direct you back down to you.
Okay. Did anyone want to see the pictures at all? They're horrible. Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Anybody else? See, nobody will close the public portion?
My name is Ronnie Galdos, 5 Claridge Drive in Allentown, New Jersey. I'd just like to ask the mayor if you've actually, if have you ever gone to Kaporos and experienced what happens during this ritual?
I have not.
Is it possible to request that during next year's event that you would maybe join some of us in attending the event and experience it firsthand, so it's not just, you know, you think it's a bunch of crazy people coming up here and.
Crazy, you're doing anything to take me totally serious.
Okay, I truly appreciate that, and I would like to extend an invitation to you, sir, to join us. And you know, numbers are growing. I mean, this is not an event that's limited to Lakewood. Obviously, there's events in Newark and there around the country, and you know, nobody wants to suppress anybody's right to religious freedom, but there are ways to still have your freedom of religion without impacting another sentient being. So again, I'd like to extend that invitation to you, sir, and we would like to see you again next year.
Real this time. Anybody else? See, nobody will close the public hearing. Is there anything that anybody would like removed from the consent agenda? If not, can I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So made.
Second. Seconded by Mike. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I'm not going to be voting on I-13.
Okay. Can we roll call the consent, please?
Committeeman Ackerman?
Yes.
Committeeman Deland?
Yes.
Committeeman Lincoln, I'm sorry, I missed what you were stating on.
Excuse me, I-13. And yes on the rest of them.
Deputy Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Coles?
Yes. Ordinances for second reading? Please note that Deputy Mayor Miller had to leave. Okay, ordinances for second reading.
Ordinance of the Township of Lakewood, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, authorizing the public sale of lot 1149, lot 1 in the Township of Lakewood, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, as open public sale pursuant to NJSA 48:12-1 at set, fronting on Madeline Avenue.
Open meeting to the public for this ordinance only. If you'd like to speak on this ordinance, please come to the microphone. State your name and address for the record.
Lloyd McLean, 189 Chateau Drive. Doing a public sale. Which lot is this? I don't need which lot. It's, where is that located?
Fronting on Madeline Avenue.
You know which neighborhood that is?
Oak Street.
Oak Street. So, is that a R10 zone? R10A. So, you have how do you, I see it keeps on coming up. I thought you ran out of property.
Yes.
So you still have property. Who decides what to sell and when? How does it work? That means that you could have sold this a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You could sell it now, or you could wait a year from now when the prices even go up more. What makes the decision of selling it now and this property?
Sometimes folks will come to us and request that we sell a particular piece of property, which we'll evaluate and maybe say yes and then say no. Other times we look at a piece of property, think that it's a good idea to sell it so that we can bring in some money for the budget for the following year, which is the case with this particular piece of property.
So do you have a professional that tells you what pays to sell and what not? Like, who makes these, is it you that makes the decisions, or it's our esteemed township manager? You know, how does it work?
The manager would normally talk to the engineering department, the tax assessor, to get an idea of the values of the properties, if there were any restrictions to them. And again, just in a particular area, we may decide that this is a good idea to sell, and bring in some revenue.
The reason why I'm asking, do you have a professional consultant that you pay that is supposed to advise you on these type of stuff? Are you utilizing it?
No, for something like this. We work with people to try and look at areas at the triangle to see what we could do to assemble pieces of property for the park and playground area. But we don't go to somebody and say, this is property will sell. Again, the request comes in from somebody in the public, we'll consider it, and if this is something that we want to do, we will send it out to our professionals. Anybody else like to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing nobody, will close the public hearing.
I'll move it.
Moved by Mayor.
I'll second.
Second by Isaac. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Ackerman,
Yes.
Committeeman Delia,
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtenstein,
Yes.
Mayor Coles.
Yes.
Ordinance of the Township of Lakewood County, Ocean State of New Jersey, authorizing the private sale of block 12.01, lot 20 in the Township of Lakewood County, Ocean State of New Jersey, a private sale pursuant to NJSA 48:12-1 et sec, fronting on Miller Road.
Open meeting public on this ordinance only. Would anybody like to be heard?
Doing a private sale, how big is that property? Last I checked, I think
12,000
it's,
square feet, we are 12 zone.
and what is the minimum that you're going to sell it for?
59,600.
So you have a thing in R12 zone, and it's 12,000 square feet.
Excuse me, sorry. Maybe it's 11,000.
Okay, so tackle on this, I apologize.
So it's a little bit undersized. And therefore is you're going to sell something that is valued in that neighborhood, let's say, it's probably 500,000 to 600,000. I'll be conservative, let's put it at 4. And you're going to do a private sale between two property owners that might make a deal with each other, and you're selling it for $59,000, does not make sense.
I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense. You can go to our tax assessor, who looks at it and comes up with the price that we can put it up for.
But you cannot take a property, this is called stealing in my opinion. Taking a property that is 12,000 square feet, 11,000 square feet, okay, and they take this property and they go to the zone, they don't even have to go to the zoning board. They could go, and it's a by right application, they could build a house even though it's undersized because it's individual lot. They have to let them, as long as they have the setbacks, they could build whatever they want. And you're going to tell me that 11,000 square feet lot in Lakewood is only valued by the tax assessor for $59,000. I'm sorry, that tax assessor that assessed this property should be fired and sent far away from Lakewood.
Through the chair, it's I just pulled it up. It says it on the sheet here. I don't know the exact dimensions, but it's not a buildable lot because it's very deep. It's narrow and very deep.
Like how narrow?
I can't see it. I expanded it, but it's.
See, if it's a little bit narrow and it's not a buildable lot, is one thing.
21 feet across in the rear, 53 feet across in the front.
Does meet any of the setbacks to allow them to build a house.
That makes sense. Thank you for your answer.
Our tax assessor allowed to stay?
What?
Our tax assessor allowed to stay?
We'll see by the next one.
Anybody else like to be heard on this one? Seeing nobody, will close the public hearing. Do we have a motion? Motion. Moved by Mike.
Second.
Second by Isaac. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Ackerman,
Yes.
Committeeman Delia.
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtenstein.
Yes.
Mayor Coles.
Yes. J3, is there anybody representing the applicant tonight for this tax abatement?
Me.
Okay. All right, let's open the meeting. Okay.
Ordinance of the Township of Lakewood County, Ocean State of New Jersey, pursuant to NJSA 48:21-1 et sec, granting abatement to local property taxes to 32 Cross LLC property location 32 Cross Street for facilities located at block 533, lots 11.25, and authorizing the mayor and or his designee and the township clerk to execute any and all documents necessary and proper to enter into a tax abatement agreement.
Okay. You want to come forward, just giving us an explanation of the project?
Sure.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Yaakov Klugman, 4 Hilltop Court, Lakewood, New Jersey. The owner of the property developed it as well. It's a 3-story building with a basement that has retail on the first floor, offices on the second and third floor. We are 90% leased up. I wish I could have more pictures. It's a beautiful building, and yeah, hoping we can get.
Give us a rough idea how many people may be employed there? That's fully occupied.
Yeah, about 100.
Do you have any questions? I'm going to open the meeting to the public for this application only. If you don't mind, just in case there's any questions.
I have nothing to say, yes.
We got that on tape, didn't we? Anybody else like to be heard on this application? I see nobody will close the public hearing. Thank you. Have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mayor, second by Mike. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Yes.
Committeeman Delia?
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Yes.
Mayor Coles?
Yes.
Ordinance of the Township of Lakewood, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, authorizing the private sale of lot 442, lot 1 in the Township of Lakewood, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey. Private sale pursuant to NJSA 48:12-1 and sec is at the intersection of Claremont Street and Bushwick Avenue.
Open the meeting to the public on this ordinance only.
Okay, this is, I gotta check. This is speaking again, this ordinance about doing a private sale. The assessed value is $150,000. You're talking about a 12,000 square feet lot in a neighborhood that the value of such a lot will go at least for $450,000, $500,000. And this is not an irregular lot. This is a regular buildable lot, and there's no reason why this assessed value, and that's the starting bid, will be $150,000, and you will have 2 neighboring property, or might even be only 1 neighbor, taking advantage of that and just do the 150 and get a property that you could sell. Now, I know, I'll try to answer to you, Mayor, that technically is, that's the way I speak. Technically is, this is an undersized lot, so it doesn't have to go to public bid and get the full value of this property. You could do it as a private sale because you could say it's an undersized lot, and an undersized lot, as the statute says, doesn't have to go to a public sale. But this individual, even though it's an R20 zone and it's only 15,000 square feet, he could go to the zoning officer or to the zoning board and get this approved in a buildable lot, a house. So there's no reason why such a lot should be sold for under the value. So I would like to get an answer on that, if it's possible.
Al, will you address the specifics?
Sure. With the private sale ordinances, this one included, there's a requirement that the undersized lot be merged into the adjoining property owner's lot. There are 2 other lots that are adjoining this. The requirement of the ordinance is that it merge into that other lot and not be further subdivided. So this will have to join up with the other property.
I had no clue what you just said, and if I didn't understand, trust me, the members of the public, is there somebody over here who could explain what the attorney just said?
That lot will be included into somebody else's lot and is not allowed to be subdivided out. So it won't be asked for.
So you have a valuable lot, 12,000 square feet, that you could sell it for at least $500,000, and you're going to tell me you cannot do it?
I'm telling you that this is the value that was put on by our professionals, and that is the value that we're going with this private sale.
Even though it makes no sense?
To you, maybe not. To our professionals, it does. I'm sorry.
Who's the professional?
Our appraiser, our tax collector, and our engineering department. All review these before we put them out.
So your tax collector appraised a value of land. The assessor assessed a value of a land for 12,000 square feet in prime neighborhood of Hartstone, and that I know the values over there in such a property would be at least $450,000, $500,000. You're going to tell me that it's only assessed for 150 and that's the reason why you're going to sell it? This is robbery. You just, if you cannot explain something, that is a problem. You should table this ordinance. The previous time, Mr. Ackerman explained it, and I understood. It's undersized, and you're not able to build. You can only adjoin it on property. But over here, it makes no sense to sell a lot for 12,000 square feet, and you're selling it for $150,000. And again, did you utilize your paid professional, your land consultant, to deal with this?
Were there any professionals outside the township who dealt with this, Pat?
No, this is our tax assessor, our engineering department, Harold, myself, that's how it's reviewed.
Pat, does it make sense?
If you don't believe me, you can believe him.
But I know this guy. He's a straight shooter. How does this make sense? I'm asking you.
As we said, our professionals all reviewed this. This property has to be joined with the neighboring one, whichever one gets awarded the bid.
It has to?
Yes.
You cannot sell it as a public sale?
No. Here's the house. It's an undersized lot. Here's the house. Whoever wins the bid and gets that under this for the adjoining properties, it has to be combined with that property.
Let me ask you legally. Could you sell an undersized lot? I'm asking you a legal question. Your attorneys are here. Could you sell an undersized lot? Technically, legally, it's undersized, and they could build on it. Could you do a public sale on it, or you have to do it as a private sale?
Maybe you want that to be answered or not?
Good question, man.
The ordinance that we have posted says the successful bidder shall consolidate the property purchased with other contiguous lot or lots so as to be
No, he
part.
wants to know if it has to be a private sale, it's an undersized lot.
This has to be a private sale, it's an undersized lot.
By statute.
And you can't do it as a public sale.
Thanks, okay. Anybody else like to be heard on this ordinance? See nobody, we'll close the public hearing.
I just want to make one point. I believe Pat told me before the meeting that the neighbors' lots are also undersized. And this would bring it into conformity?
I believe so, yes. Harold can confirm that.
Yes, I believe that's the case. At least one of the properties is undersized.
Okay, we have a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mayor,
I'll second.
second by Mike. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Yes.
Committeeman Deloitte?
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Yes.
Mayor Coles?
Yes. Okay, ordinance 3 o'clock.
Ordinance of the Township of Lakewood County, Ocean State, New Jersey, authorizing the exchange of certain municipal lands known as Block 448, Lot 3, fronting on Bushwick Avenue, for certain lands known as Block 443, Lot 9, fronting on Bushwick Avenue, in the Township of Lakewood County, Ocean State, New Jersey, pursuant to NJSA 48:12-16.
Open meeting for public on this ordinance only.
Okay, this ordinance is talking about a land swap. What it means is you're exchanging property for property. I had a chance to speak to the manager about it, and he tried to explain it to me as best as he could, as far as why this land swap is necessary for the town. He did explain to me is that the township is getting a better deal. That's how he put it down, and that's the reason I asked him who reached out. I don't know if I got a clear answer from him, if it's the neighboring property reached out to the town. I just don't remember. He could have answered me as it was a long time ago, not long, but the only question that I have is, again, when land swaps, when sales are done, I understand, he said there's rules, even though the township doesn't have to give a assessed value of a property of $150,000 when it's worth $500,000. But when you do land swaps, it becomes a little bit more tricky, as we saw in the past. Land swaps is the way the township might not know the value of the property that they're exchanging. So this is very important. Who looked into this in a professional sense, why this land swap is being done? And again, if the township has a paid outside consultant to deal with such issues, if he was involved.
He was not involved. by saying that, again, and I apologize for that. This is the same way we spoke about this. This is a benefit to the township for the future for public use. Yes, it was a benefit for them consolidating on their end, but for our purposes, myself, the engineering department, the assessor, and engineering on that side, and how we look at it, it's a benefit for our future, whatever the potential we may or may not use the property. That's why it was done. Same explanation I gave for that.
The reason why I'm asking all these kinds of questions is, this is a township that is growing, and it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. You have more people, you have more investors, you have properties become tight. And as people buy certain properties, I just want to make sure is that you guys deal with this stuff professional, not like a third world country that you go to this guy, you go to that guy, you know what, I'll do you a favor, I know you from yeshiva, or I know you from school, I know you from there, or maybe I will know you, and therefore things happen. I just want to make sure, and that's the reason why I'm asking is, that everything is done professionally, and professional people are looking into without people able to have influence in them. Mr. Pat looks like a straight shooter, and I trust the guy. But I'm just asking who makes the decisions, and how is it being looked at? And again, the developers might take advantage of this. They'll find out that, they only have to speak to you, and you make the decision, and whatever you say, the committee votes on it, and therefore the whole weight becomes on you, and you have to make sure that you don't have any members of the public or investors putting pressure on you. I just want to help you out, that you should be able to say hey, we have a process, and you have to go through the process, and, therefore you could put pressure on me from here to tomorrow, but it's not a decision that somebody could make without need to give accountability why he made that decision.
Township manager doesn't make the final decision. This is a process that we've been looking into for several years. What we're trying to do is accumulate properties, add them to properties we already own, so that we can at some point in time create more parks, playgrounds, and green space in town, which is extremely important to me and everybody else on the township committee. So what we did is we've been looking at the parcels we own in a particular area, as well as what is owned by other people.
But I'm sorry for interrupting you, the time is up. You didn't do that, you just did a public sale today. Why didn't you utilize that property for public use that is needed in that neighborhood? Why is that, it looks like to me as you consolidate properties to be able to sell them and to do public sales, and that might be a good thing in a certain part, but it's different than you're saying now.
They're two separate animals. We're looking at this, when you do a land exchange, it has to be for a public purpose.
Oh, you cannot use that property then for selling the property?
We have to see what it can be used for. Right now, we're looking at creating some parks and playgrounds out there.
So am I getting
a
commitment from you that this is not going to go up for public sale, this is going to be dedicated for a park in the future?
This is my intention, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else want to be heard in this ordinance? So nobody will close the public hearing? Motion in a second.
I'll move it.
Moved by Mayor. I'll second. Second by Mike. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
David Ackerman?
I'm going to abstain. I'm looking at the paperwork here and I'm a little confused. I'm just going to abstain.
David Delia?
Yes.
David Lichtenstein?
Yes.
Mayor Coles?
Yes. J6.
Ordinance of the Town of Lakewood County, Ocean State, New Jersey, amending and supplementing Article 2 definitions, Section 18-200B, definition of terms of Chapter 18 of the Unified Development Ordinance, hotel resort hotel definition.
Hold the meeting to the public on this ordinance.
Now, this ordinance is speaking about making, the ordinance says you could, wherever that section is, you could make a motel, and now you're adding hotel. Now, my question is, who's asking for this ordinance change?
We're trying to clean up some discrepancies in our code. Harold, what was the basis for this one?
Came from the engineer.
Yeah.
It was.
Every vote is for a mayor, clarifying which
And who asked Terry Vogt to clarify?
I don't know, but I was about to say, if there was an application that came before them, and Terry noticed that there was something with the ordinance that needed to be addressed, not because of the particular application, but because of what we had in our ordinance, that's what he asked us to make a change.
Okay, this is the information that I was told by a source, let's put it this way.
Tell me the name. Why does it have to be anonymous?
Because as a journalist, I do not have to disclose my sources. If I will disclose the sources, I won't be a journalist. People tell me stuff because they know that I won't come up over here and just expose them, and then whatever will happen to them will happen. So I have to keep but I'm not coming up and making, this is not an accusation. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. This hotel that has to do something with Sol Mizrahi as an applicant, it was a fight by the planning or zoning board, don't know exactly, about one of the other hotels told them is that they cannot build because the ordinance says motel and not hotel. And basically is they coming over here as getting the township to change the ordinance to benefit this guy that is suing, or it's a lawsuit in court, or it was denied by the court, not just that they can't give it a planning board, they have to go to the zoning board, whatever the case is. This is a litigation stuff going on, and they're using the township ordinance to circumvent the other party that is involved, and getting the ordinance changed. And this is done by engineer. And again, and this was when you do such a change of ordinance in the land use, as far as adding things, not like I'm talking about decks that could be beneficial to a lot of people. You're talking about a limited amount of people that are willing to make motels and hotels, and when there's a dispute going on. And the township makes an ordinance, and it only benefits a certain individual. I think is that you should know about it. That's all I'm saying is don't let yourself, I was once standing by the engineering department and one developer came up with a box of donuts. So that development of the guy, I was looking, what will happen to this application to the guy that bought a box of donuts?
Bring it back to this application, please.
No, I'll just finish. It comes in. And you know what happened? They didn't have enough parking. And they had to buy more property than to put in more parking. So look what a box of donuts is. What I'm saying is, you have a township engineer recommending something without you knowing why, what brought into it, and what, and again, I'm asking you again, maybe you have a land consultant that was advising you to, I don't know if that's what a land consultant does, but I'm just trying to bring out this, like I did in the previous ordinances. When you make such an ordinance, and there might be stuff behind it, and this is also beneficial for Mr. Lipton, for Mayor Lichtenstein, because if he manages this guy's properties that ask for this ordinance change, or is benefiting from that, I think he should abstain to that. So he could say I didn't know, but now he knows. Again, I think when you do these changes, you should know why you're doing them. There's a reason why the ordinance had initially only stated motel. Somebody put it in there. It was not a typo. And then come like 30 years later, after it was put in, or 40 years later, to decide is, hey, we want to change it. There's nothing wrong to change. But know why you're changing it, who's requesting it, to make sure is that you guys are doing stuff without influence that somebody's going to make over here a few $100,000 just because you just made an ordinance change.
The change has nothing to do with the difference between a hotel and a motel. The change is one sentence in the actual ordinance. The previous one stated that a hotel or resort hotel, a building having sleeping rooms for temporary occupancy of guests, and in which there is located a lobby or recreational area with interior hallways. The change is hotel or resort hotel. A hotel is a place of lodging that provides temporary sleeping accommodations and supporting facilities that may include but not be limited to a lobby, full-service restaurant, cocktail lounge, meeting rooms, banquet facilities, and convention facilities. It typically provides a swimming pool or other recreational facilities such as a fitness room. So all it's doing is updating the ordinance because the hotels that we've had come into the town before this have those amenities in them. but they're not specifically called out in this. When he noticed that, he asked us to update the definitions so that we would know what can and can't be included.
So now you could add like a sinkhole there? But you could have answered me that in the beginning and not let me continue the hotel motel thing. I'm just finishing up.
Please show me time is up.
Are you saying is that you're not going to answer me is if this is for creating a sinkhole without providing any parking? Is this what the ordinance says?
No, it's just changing the definition of what a hotel amenities are.
Until now, a sinkhole was not permitted, and now it's permitted. Or we'll call it a hole, or we'll call it a recreational space that people dance. Is that what the ordinance is doing?
The ordinance is clarifying what a guest recreational area includes. There are other hotels in town that have those things that aren't called out in this ordinance. So Terry noticed that. He thought it would be a good idea to update the ordinance to the standards that apply today.
And no parking required.
There's nothing at all about parking.
The problem is sinkhole does not have parking.
A hotel requires parking. If there's a banquet hall inside the hotel, it's subject to those same parking restrictions as the hotel is.
You don't have to add them up.
I don't believe you have to right now.
The ordinance, the way it says, you don't have to. You're adding...
You know what? I'm sorry, but your time is up.
And you have no idea what you're going to vote on. That's the reason why my time is up. My time is up is because I asked you what this ordinance is all about. You were reading a sentence. You didn't know that it was adding recreation. And you don't want to answer me is, you don't want to be embarrassed to say is that you have no idea what you're voting on. And that's the reason why my time is up. I will sit down, but this is not acceptable that you have a committee voting on an ordinance, and that's going to benefit the developer, whatever his name is, and you guys have no idea what you're voting, or you're making yourself dumb like you don't know.
I don't know what you're speaking about at this point in time. Anybody else like to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing nobody, will close the public hearing.
Through the chair. Steve, I just wanted to clarify, do you think this is, I was not aware, I don't even know if what Mr. Klein is saying is correct, but I was obviously not aware of it. Is this something out of an abundance of caution I should not vote on, or something I should vote on?
As the mayor says, it's a very minor change. We've got a request for Terry vote. We trust Terry vote. I don't know. That's what we rely on, our professionals. So we changed the one line in the ordinance.
So it's your opinion that I should vote on it?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a motion.
Oh, can I make the motion as well?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
By Mayor.
I'll second the motion.
By Mike.
I know what it's about.
Roll call.
I'm sorry, just discussion.
Yeah.
For Harold, I guess, if a hotel would, someone would come with a hotel application and he'd say he has to stay at a banquet hall, why would we, I'm sure we would require parking there.
Yeah, it would be governed by the standard of all requirements.
So I think, in other words, this ordinance doesn't, there's no.
It just expands. Terry's requesting the expand and modernize it's a definitional modification of it to say hotels have these things.
It wouldn't be different than any other banquet hall, a standalone banquet hall.
Well, this is the definition of a hotel, not a banquet hall.
Right, but I'm saying if they would come in and they'd say, okay, we have 180 rooms, I'm saying Terry would calculate based on 180 rooms, based on banquet hall, especially if they provide services.
Yeah, parking is done that way. They look at the rooms, they look at the square footage of those sort of areas. And there's a calculation that's done.
Roll call.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Yes.
Committeeman Delia?
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtens?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes. Ordinance is for first reading.
Ordinance of the Township of Lakewood County, Ocean State, New Jersey, amending and supplementing chapter 11, entitled Stop Intersections of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Lakewood, Delaware Trail and Lenape Trail.
Have a motion.
So made.
Mayor. Second. By Isaac, discussion. Roll call, please.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Yes.
Committeeman Delia?
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtens?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes.
Ordinance carries second reading, public hearing scheduled for December 5th, 2019. Ordinance of the Township of Lakewood County of Ocean State of New Jersey authorizing the private sale of block 98, lot 5 in the Township of Lakewood County of Ocean State of New Jersey and private sale pursuant to NJSA 48:12-1 at SEC. This is 10th Street, this is between Madison Avenue and Clifton Avenue.
We have a motion.
I'll move it.
I'll second. Second by Mike. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Yes.
Committeeman DeLeo?
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes.
Ordinance carries second reading, public hearing scheduled for December 5th, 2019. Ordinance of the Township of Lakewood County, Ocean State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 11 traffic of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Lakewood, specifically Section 11-35, handicap parking, Long Beach Avenue.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mayor, second by Mike. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Yes.
Committeeman DeLeo?
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes.
Ordinance carries second reading and public hearing scheduled for December 5th, 2019. Ordinance of the Township of Lakewood County, Ocean State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 11 entitled Traffic with the revised general ordinances of the Township of Lakewood, specifically Section 11-11 entitled Parking Time Limited on Certain Streets. It's on Spruce Street, Mayor.
Before I get a motion on this, I was told by the police department they made a minor mistake when they sent the letter up, that it's the north side of Spruce Street, the hours from Sunday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9:45 p.m., and the locations between Mark Drive and Howard Drive. With those changes, can I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second, Mayor, second by Mike. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Yes.
Committeeman DeLeo?
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes.
Ordinance carries second reading and public hearing scheduled for December 5th, 2019. Ordinance of the-
I just need to ask the attorney about first reading.
Ordinance of the Township of Lakewood County, Ocean State of New Jersey, authorizing the conveyance and execution of a deed of a fee simple interest to the County of Ocean for Block 961.02, Lot 4, and Block 961.02, Lot 3.
We have a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mike, second by Mike. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Yes.
Committeeman DeLeo?
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes.
Ordinance carries second reading, public hearing scheduled for December 5th, 2019. Ordinance of the Township of Lakewood County, Ocean State of New Jersey, authorizing the private sale of Block 458, Lot 1 in the Township of Lakewood County, Ocean State of New Jersey, private sale pursuant to NJSA 48:12-1 at SEC. This is at the southeast corner of Nussbaum Avenue and Beaver Street.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mayor.
Second.
Second by Isaac. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Yes.
Committeeman DeLeo?
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes.
Ordinance carries second reading, public hearing scheduled for December 5th, 2019.
Do we have correspondence tonight?
No, Mayor.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the bill list of November 13th?
So made.
I'll second.
Moved by Mayor, second by Isaac. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Yes.
Committeeman DeLeo?
Yes.
Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes. Any comments from committee members? Really?
Well, I just want to compliment the mayor for his comments earlier in the meeting.
And I regret that I forgot to do this earlier, but Cindy Krupnik, who was a very, very long-time Lakewood resident and a close friend of mine, passed away this week. Please all keep him and his family in your prayers. And just a quick moment of silence for him, please. Thank you very much. And a motion to adjourn.
So made.
All right. Good night, everybody. Get home safe. Thank you for coming out.
No, it's okay. No, it's nice to meet you. Yeah. All right. Thank you.